Hello, good morning. Hi there. I'm Danny Gregory. This is Draw With Me, and thanks for coming here and being ready to draw. Today we are going to be doing some drawing, so have, whatever drawing implements you would like to work with standing by, and we'll have some fun and make some stuff. As you saw from that little procession at the beginning, last week we drew bamboo huts, I guess, bamboo shacks on a deserted island. And I was really impressed by the kind of variety of interpretations of that. And it made me think, I didn't give you a reference picture to work from. And so you had to kind of make it up. And that was interesting. For some people, maybe challenging, but you muddled through and did something with it. That was great. So, thanks for doing it. Hey, let's have a look at what do you guys got to say. Here's my groovy new addition is that I can put some of your comments on camera with me. Is it a groovy addition? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see what you have to say. So far, we seem to have some familiar faces and some new faces as well. We have James Coleman. Never got his free stuff. Not sure what that means, but I guess that's too bad. My friend David Pyle is here, and a lot of my other friends. So thank you all for joining me here. Yeah, I don't know if I like this. What do you think? Photo Vincent from Delft. Very nice to see you. So yeah, it's nice to see everybody here. And to see people from YouTube and Facebook. And, John Cromer asking about my wife. That's a rather personal question. You're going to have to deal with just me. Today, I'm afraid. It's just you and me and Alex C. Hey, that rhymes. So, hello. Ruth Kern, also a Phoenician. Here from Phoenix, Arizona, where it is raining. It's been raining here since yesterday night, or yesterday actually during the day. So it is nice. For those of you who are wondering where JJ is, you'll just have to miss her. And hello. Hello, Holly Rose. Deb Oswald coming here to Phoenix. Very nice. I hope you enjoy it. Natalie Rice also in Phoenix. So good. Nice to see you all. And Phoenix is it's getting nicer here. It is September 22nd. So it's bound finally. What is the temperature right now? 79 degrees. That's incredible. It's been around 100 all week. So yeah, maybe it is finally the coming of autumn. It seems to be because the stores are full of Halloween stuff. I was going to say junk, but one of our neighbors has a giant skeleton taller than his house that lights up at night. Another one has a giant spider, which is kind of creepy. So let us get to it because I've been feeling very creative and makerly this week. I've been making a bunch of stuff. I've been learning some new things that I'm pretty excited about. I just feel freer. I don't know why. I just feel like, I want to make junk. I want to make drawings. I've been making some new films, working on the podcast, maybe it's the podcast, because the podcast is now all these interesting conversations that I'm having with various creative people. And so that has been pretty inspiring. I'm pretty excited by that. So maybe that's fueled me, and hopefully I can pass that on a little bit. Okay. Let's talk about Hahnemühle, which is one of our sponsors. We're going to be using the Hahnemühle The Collection, Das Collection, Der Collection watercolor pad. Comes in hot press and cold press. I have both standing by. Not sure what I'm going to use. We'll see. But if you would like one, we have a couple to give away. Write to us at info@sketchbookschool.com. Send us your U.S. mailing address. Please send your mailing address. Don't just write to me to say you like it. I mean, I hope that you do. But yes, indeed. We have it here in the chat as well. That there is a giveaway. We do it every week. For those of you who are new to Draw With Me, Hahnemühle is kind enough to give us some fantastic paper to give away each week. You could also write to us if you'd like. POB 45365. We just went and got the mail, was it yesterday? And there's always lots of exciting, fun things in there. So thank you for everybody who writes to us. Also, this week I'm going to be using these metallic watercolors from Winsor Newton, Cotman line. I'm kind of obsessed with these metallic watercolors. I'll show you some of the stuff that I've been doing with them, but they are really, I don't know, they're just kind of changing my point of view, making me think. And I see that some of you have in fact been getting your stuff, Lenore and Kate, and yes, we actually do give stuff away. So if you're wondering, could that possibly be what that guy, who was he saying before I didn't get my free stuff? Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? He didn't get his free stuff. Who was it? Maybe he's left. Maybe he said, you know what? I didn't get my free stuff. I'm out of here. I don't know. Sorry, that's really annoying. Grace Afridi got hers. And yes, we do actually give away stuff. Buddha-graphs. So yes, we give real things to real people, and you could be one of those people who gets this set of Cotman watercolors. Just write to us, and we will give it to a needy person. Needy. By needy, I say deserving. No, not deserving necessarily either. Interested. Somebody who's interested. So that's great. And oh, that reminds me, by the way. Grace brings it up that she took our watercolor week workshop last weekend. It was phenomenal. I was so worried about it. I have to be honest with you. I was worried because it was long and it was deep and it was new and it was excellent. So I shouldn't have worried. But we had our friend Mario Robinson teach us how to do some incredible things, I think, with watercolors. I think a lot of us were like, wow, I am rethinking my entire watercolor life thanks to Mario. And what a super guy, so sweet. And I've seen so many paintings that people made in that workshop popping up all over the place. Grace says it was not long enough. It's true, but Susan liked it and Emily liked it. So it was really fun. It was a great workshop, and it was I shouldn't have been worried. So, owned by my kitty wants to know, is it available on Sketchbook School? Well, it was if you signed up, but it's sold out. But in time, we will probably bring it back. But that's why I tell you about these things. And in fact, we have a new workshop that I'm going to talk about next week. But when I tell you about them, just go and sign up. Don't be racked with remorse and regret. What a dreadful state of affairs. So, yes, Janice enjoyed it. And was it a recorded event? Of course. Every workshop we do is recorded. Everything we do is for posterity. So, yes, Linda enjoyed it too. So, all right. Let's move on. Let's talk about what we want to talk about this week. So, as I said, I've been really enjoying these Cotman watercolors, and there's something about metallic that has just been making me like, look at this guy. This is just something I did. But you can see how this is shiny. This is watercolor. Watercolor is not meant to do this kind of thing, but it did. And here's my King Charles. I thought at one point that we might do King Charles, do a sort of portrait of him, but I don't know. I think we decided that it was enough. I'm done. Sorry the Queen's dead. I guess I'm glad we have a new king. let's move on. So what I've been thinking about, though, is, that's right, knights in shining armor. I'm going to show you a bunch of different pictures that I picked, but if you want to, you can go to school.tiny.us/ref, and that will take you to our blog that we have here on YouTube, and I post the reference pictures when I remember, which is most of the time. I post them there, so you can download them in advance if you want to, or if you want to work from them rather than, I'll put them up on screen, but I put the pictures there, so you can just go and get them. So school.tiny.us/ref, or you can just look at the community section on our channel. This just takes you there, and there you'll also find, generally I post also the picture that I painted each week, and I kind of remind you, so forth. So that is there. I'm just going to make it tiny and put it over here just in case somebody comes late and just wants to know. All right. So let me show you the different cool, and I do mean cool. So these are all from the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York freaking City, which I do miss. And I love going to the Met, and it has an incredible collection of armor, and I've gone and drawn it a number of times. It's really beautiful. And these are all from there. They're all like 15th, 16th, 17th century. They have mainly from Europe, but they have some from Asia as well, like samurai suits of armor. Really, I mean, look at that. That's Italian. It doesn't have a nick on it. It's one of those things you go like, really? Did they really wear this in? Did they really wear this in a war? Hard to say. For those of you who are complaining that the reference picture in the community section cuts the guy off above the knees, double click on it. It's entirely there. You should be able to just get it. Double click on it. You'll find it. So yeah, so there's an Italian guy. Here is, I kind of like this one. It looks sort of like a Jiffy Pop, right? Like you could put him on a fire and he would explode with popcorn. Thistle has said that this gold one is purely ceremonial. How do you know? Were you there? Maybe that guy was such a good fighter that he never got a nick on him. Yeah, but you're probably right. Of course you are. All right, I can't help you figure out what to do about this situation right now. It's probably because you're on an iPad, but it's there. And in the meantime, you will be able to see what I'm going to put it on screen. This guy looks a little puny. A lot of them are really nice and beefy, and I like the beefy ones. Like this guy, beefy. He's kind of like the Mountain, Game of Thrones, right? The Mountain. So, yeah, Jen points out, can you imagine getting on a horse wearing all this stuff? Poor horse. Horses were also wearing armor in a lot of the situations. Yeah, but probably better than getting a battle axe in the head. So there you go. So what do you think? I'm thinking maybe this guy. I like this guy. This feels very classic. Feels kind of wide in the hips. Probably so that he could sit on a horse. I like this one, and I also like this one. But I think I like this one best. Look at those shoes. Kind of cool. And the sort of epaulettes. So, yeah. Larry wants to know how I go to the bathroom, or how one goes to the bathroom. Probably just, yeah, I think you probably, particularly when it gets scary, you might really wonder. So, all right, I'm sorry, Thistle. Usually it does work for me, but I can't really stop what I'm doing to do that. So, oh, here's JJ. Hello, welcome. Is this going to be a charcoal drawing? No, I'm probably going to work with these beautiful Cotman metallic watercolors. And David points out they look like metal Birkenstocks. All right, it's enough. It's enough nonsense. Not that was nonsense, David, but you get what I'm saying. I think I'm going to start with, here's the thing, because these are watercolors, I did a little test before. Just wanted to see how this worked, all right? So this is, it's a pen drawing with a fine liner, but you can see that it's the metallic. And so this is two different colors. This is the silver. So you can definitely see the line through it. And then there's the see how the arms are pewter? But you can still see the line through it. So it's fairly opaque. I'm sorry, Mughal, I'm not sure why you think this is going to be a charcoal drawing. It's not. As I just said, it's going to be a watercolor painting. But you can do it in charcoal. You can do it in, you could do a fresco if you'd like. I don't really mind. But so, all right, so my point is I'm going to do a drawing. And then we'll see what we see. And then we'll bring the watercolor into it. So let's get on with it. I think I'm going to start at the top. You know, I should probably be measuring this out a little bit because I'm probably going to end up making it the wrong proportion for my page, but I don't know. I don't feel like it. I'm going to wing it. I'm not going to armor myself. I will not gird my loins before doing this drawing. I'm just going to plunge in. And we'll see what happens. Could be a disaster, but that's part of the battle. Should we use a lot of battle metaphors today? Does that seem appropriate? I kind of like all these little kind of curves and lines on this thing. This is a lot of cool embellishments. And JJ, I'm glad that you're here because, you know, JJ loves medieval times. Not the restaurant. I don't even know how she feels about that restaurant. But she does love the medieval era. And that was, in fact, what she studied in college. So, this one's for you. I'm glad that you made it back. Has a certain kind of football quality to it also, right? Could be a member of the NFL. A member of the NFL? A card-carrying, ball-carrying member of the NFL. And yeah, as I said, there's a lot of interesting embellishments, but it's also an opportunity to kind of make stuff up too. You can make up additional lines if you want. You can say, you know what, I'm gonna make up some even more stuff. I'm gonna make it more kind of Darth Vader-y. It's nice. I'm drawing on this watercolor paper, which is, I kind of debated whether I should go hot press or cold press. I've been just kind of more into hot press, particularly with gouache, which I've been using a lot of. But this is cold press. It's not super lumpy like cold press paper can be, but it is quite pleasant. Sometimes drawing on really textured watercolor paper with a fine liner can feel unpleasant. This doesn't particularly, but it can wear out your marker, and that's always a risk. You will kind of grind down the tip because of the texture. It's not a huge problem, but it is, you know, consideration, I guess. But you know, if you're going to do watercolor, I guess you sort of should go with cold press. Just because, you know, it's the watercolor thing. Nice lumpy paper. There's a lot of interesting bits on this that I wouldn't have expected. Like, look at this kind of inside of his elbow thing. Like an elbow cover. Do you think that this is ceremonial? Maybe. Maybe they're all ceremonial. Maybe that's why they survived and made it to the Met. You know, maybe the real kind of battle-worn ones. Like, what happens if a knight dies in his armor? Do they sell it? Give it to somebody else? Pass it on to the down the team? What's the deal with that? That's a good question. What is... I'm assuming that a knight has a certain amount of power and money. I mean, unless they were some sort of like a mercenary. But I would assume that they are... But they couldn't have been too well off, right? Because honestly, why would you risk your life if you were really powerful and wealthy? Send some other guy in to do that. There's a lot of nice hatching kind of built into this thing as you draw it. A lot of nice little hinges, and it looks like there's sort of copper or brass, probably. Brass screws and things holding it together, or adding inflection points. So yeah. David points out that elbow thing is for resting your lance on. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally makes sense. How are my proportions? Yeah, I think I'm okay. It's possible he'll end up being a little runty, a little distorted, but I'm just enjoying drawing each bit. Enjoying and drawing both bits, each bit, one at a time. So I don't have to worry too much about proportion. Says me right now, as opposed to the me that will be looking at this in a couple of minutes and saying, why did I do that? Here's this piece of negative space in here. I kind of want to think about that. And then this sort of like little weird foldy bit here. And then another, I guess this is a gauntlet, right? This is a gauntlet. That's what they call these sort of armored gloves, a gauntlet. Probably a place that really needs armor, I imagine. Pretty easy way to cut yourself. Probably cut yourself with your own equipment. Think about that, like tossing swords and the rest around. And here's this cod piece. I think this might actually be the reason that I was attracted to this. Not that I'm saying I'm attracted to a gentleman's cod piece, but I think I was attracted to the fact that it was made out of chain mail. Mail being the operative term here. So, sort of a lot of little bits in here in his personal area. Again, another very important part, I would imagine, of the whole Armour apparatus. Interesting how the different directions that these lines go. You know, you have to pay attention to each line because they curve in different ways. And there's also a couple of little screws in there, like a sort of Tin Man effect. So when you're drawing this, make sure you're looking at the angle of each of these little lines, because it's not just a series of hatches. It is actually, it's a little machine, a little piece of beautifully constructed. I mean, imagine the guys who made this. How much time did they have to make it with manual tools and stuff? Really cool. Yeah, I remember this from drawing this in person, that there's just so many interesting little details and interesting ways in which the Armour catches the light. Because really every little piece here is reflecting light in a slightly different way. It has shadows, highlights, all those kinds of things. And when you look at it in person, as opposed to a small reference photo, you really get to see that nuance. I do remember drawing, it might have even been this one at the Met, and just getting so lost in the details. When you look at it up close and you're sitting there, I generally sit, like, sometimes bring a little folding chair with me, and sometimes just sit on the ground at its feet and draw it in a little glass case. There were always a lot of visitors to this section. I think people are really intrigued by it. Understandably, it's pretty cool. So, I want to get to watercoloring, but it is kind of intoxicating to draw each of these little bits. I hope you're enjoying it too. Here's another kind of bolt-on piece on the back of his knee. I wonder if that's another kind of support thing for his lance. Oh, I think I gotta watch that angle of that kneecap. And here seems to be his Achilles heel, as it were, which is the back of his leg. Doesn't seem to be armored. Seems like he's wearing like yoga pants underneath there. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, in the middle of a medieval battle, and you're wondering, how am I ever going to get past this guy's defenses? Well, look for the yoga pants. Go yoga pants. And you're saying to yourself, well, I don't really care about that because it's not going to happen. But here's what I would say. 2 words. Time machine. Right? Because every time you see a movie or something like that about time machines, where do they go? They always go to the medieval era. It goes back to Mark Twain, a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. One of the early time machine novels. And I think that there was probably some battles and armor and stuff like that. Yeah. little shin covering. Quite literally, it seems like his Achilles tendon is not covered. Which, what does that tell us? It tells us that these medieval guys had contempt for the Greeks. They hadn't read their Iliad. Is it the Iliad that mentions Achilles? Can't remember. Yeah, my guy has kind of thin legs. But I imagine, I mean, like if you look at these, as what David has pointed out, are like Birkenstocks. I'm sure they didn't walk anywhere. This is just to protect their foot in the stirrup. Maybe they did walk. Maybe they got off, kind of lumbered down off the horse and did a bit of mano a mano, hand-to-hand combat. Maybe. All right, so my guy is kind of beefier with thinner legs, kind of like, like I imagine that could happen, right? Like a bodybuilder. You always see these guys in the gym. They only do leg work. They only do upper body. So they end up with huge pecs and biceps and kind of thin legs. So maybe that's what this guy is. All right, so there you go. That's kind of our guy. I see there's a lot of experts on medieval battling here in our crowd. I'm glad to see it. So, all right, now I'm going to bring in my palette and I'm going to bring in my watercolors. And I'm thinking that this is kind of a combination probably of pewter, which is sort of a darker gray, grayish silver, and silver, which is kind of a lighter one. So almost two colors, because that's kind of what this is. And then there's a little teeny tiny bit of bronze, maybe? I mean, I have bronze, and I have red copper, and I have yellow gold to do that little belt thing in there. But we'll get to that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So I think I'm going to start with just the silver. And I'm just going to kind of put down a bit of a base coat. Base coat. It goes like, painting a house. I'm going to I think I'll put down an undercoat, and then I'll come in with the eggshell. Could leave some stuff white. Could do. So one of the things I picked up, of course, in this weekend's workshop is the importance, or, how cool it is to just build up tone first. Everybody who was there will remember this thing that Mario said. I don't know if he invented it, but let's give him credit for it. And he said, tone does the work, color gets the credit. It's so true. Watercolor, building up your tone with layers and layers and glazes and stuff. And then you slap on some color and it's like, wow, that looks really good. Whereas without it, it looks flat. I mean, the tone makes it three-dimensional. And so I'm just kind of indiscriminately covering most of this with this kind of thing of silver. And then I'm going to come in and start building it up, I think. I have to say, it looks kind of good. Even just the silver looks sort of good. To me, it does. Now, let's say I was going to do this and I didn't have metallic paint. I mean, as I said, I've done watercolors of this group of suits of armor before, and I did it without metallic paint because I didn't have any. So you can totally do this. You could do this with just ink wash if you wanted to. The thing about this technique of building up your layers first is it's not ideal when you have to move as quickly as I do in order to get this painting done today while we have this time together. Because really what you want to do is let these layers dry. And that takes time. Some people in the workshop were asking Mario if you could just use a hairdryer, which is something I've certainly done. I've done it on this program. And he said he didn't think it was great because he said it's not great for the paper. And he said when it dries too fast, it just doesn't have the same quality that it has when just give it a little time. Give it a little time. I'm so impatient and I work so quickly, and definitely pay a price for that. I mean, there's certain kinds of art that are just great when you move quickly, that have capturing energy if you're doing even urban sketching, but certainly if you're doing life drawing and you're doing quick poses, you want to capture that energy. Having fast marks with energy is often essential. I was kind of tempted when I was working on the drawing part of this to start putting in some hatching to indicate tones, and I'm really glad that I didn't do that I'm leaving it to the watercolor to convey that. But this is a really nice thing to work on in terms of all the reflections. Nice subject. Kind of appeals to the inner 9-year-old boy in me too. I mean, there's certainly vestiges of this technology, this approach to defending yourself still around, right? You see like the body armor that soldiers still wear in modern warfare, and policemen wear it too. So it feels like there's probably a lot of things that these guys worked out 500 years ago that are still relevant. I mean, in general, warfare was one of the biggest places where technology developed. I mean, it's still true. It's still true that most of or a lot of our technological innovations come from war. That's why there's often explosions of, as it were, explosions of development that happen right after wars. But you think of even, the internet, the military origins that it has. So I learned that color, a lot of the color developments in the art supply industry, like for instance, these watercolors, metallic watercolors, a lot of it comes from the automobile industry. That's really where the innovations in paint begin, because they can devote a lot of time and money. I mean, the art supply industry is pretty small industry by comparison, but car industry is always looking for new ways to make paint. If you think about it, how much paint they use, and how important it is, how many coats of paint there are on every car, and how the paint protects them. I know I've been spending too much time on the computer when I have an urge to zoom in on my sketchbook. To pinch and zoom. Wouldn't that be cool? Pinch and zoom right in there. Look at it more closely. No, it would not be cool. It's perfectly fine being analog. It's the whole point. That's why we're doing this. To get away from our phones. And of course, we're all on computers right now. But it's only out of necessity. All right, let's figure out this little belt. I'm thinking bronze. Even though I don't think it was probably bronze. Maybe it was. So here, a little bit of bronze. Get in there and do that belt. I think I put it on too thickly. That was another thing that was interesting in the workshop this weekend, was when Mario would put down a layer of glaze and you go, oh no, that's so dark, you just ruined it. I think about how many times I've been in that situation. You go, oh no, I've ruined it by putting that color on it. And now I have to quickly figure out, what do I do? How do I get it off? But then if you wait, it suddenly isn't that bad, because it gets lighter as it dries. And suddenly you go, oh, that's actually perfectly fine. I panic needlessly. I think that's the kind of thing that comes from experience. Having done it 1,000 times, and you go, just relax. It's going to be fine. Can you see it shining? Yeah. Can you see how shiny it is? It's kind of cool. It's fun to do this kind of drawing and to just keep hopping around. Go, oh, let me put a little bit there. Let me put a little bit there. Now I could just in order to make sure I ruin this, come in with maybe just a little bit of Payne's Gray. Let's see, this might be the moment in which I ruin it. You're about to see. You're about to find out. I'm going to start by painting his yoga pants in Payne's Gray. But then, yeah, because the nice thing about this being watercolor is, of course, you can mix it with other colors and it will still have a bit of a metallic sheen to it. But, it's not just a quote-unquote metallic color. So, you can see here I'm kind of mixing it with a little bit of that pewter color just to see what happens. It's not go nuts. Keeping it a little diluted means, hopefully it will. We'll see. That you may have just seen the moment in which I ruined it, but maybe not. Maybe not. It's already getting lighter. I think it'll be okay. It's just harder to tell because I'm kind of working with somewhat unfamiliar material. Like what exactly the drying thing is going to be of this. Because ideally, of course, I would have let this dry longer. It's making me a bit nervous. I think I have to. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I should have just gutted it out. Because if you hit this, of course, the watercolor, if you hit it like I just did with a paper towel, it really takes the sheen off it to some extent. So, which is the whole point of doing this. So. But it does allow me to put in kind of more little mini details. What's weird about painting here is under the lights is the painting itself is so reflective that it's sometimes actually a little hard to see what I'm doing because it's reflecting the light in the room or the light on my desk. I didn't quite get this right here. This part of his kind of jaw plate. Oh well. You can't really tell. He's stockier. He's definitely stockier than the reference. But I think he kind of looks a little bit more badass because he's stockier. So I don't care. I'm pretty happy with this. So yeah, so that was a good experiment, I think. I think that this workshop this weekend has made me, it's changed me. I'm just willing to be slower, willing to be more methodical. And so much of it is about trust. So much of this whole business is about trust. Do you trust yourself? Or do you need to constantly second guess what you've done and kind of try and redo it because you don't trust yourself? Are you willing to say, the reason I trust myself is because I've done this before. I've done a lot of this kind of stuff before. That's what we want to do. We want to have experience. And so this is the thing that's really important in my process, is to put myself in a situation where I have lots of different creative experiences, where I work with materials and I just try them out. And I don't want to just like make swatches. That's boring to me. I want to actually make a picture. But when I'm making this picture, my goal isn't to have some kind of a perfect picture. My goal is to have this experience, because I'm building layers of confidence. Sometimes too much confidence, albeit, but generally I'm trying to build up the confidence that will allow me to progress. That's so much what this is about. It's developing that trust by saying, what, I've done this 1,000 times before. I know how this material works. I'm willing to live with the unexpected. It's okay. So when you do a drawing and it doesn't turn out well, it's a really good thing, because you just learned a lot. If you sit down and make a drawing and it kind of comes out perfectly, you didn't learn as much. This particular thing that I'm doing right now, I have painted suits of armor before, and I have worked a little bit with this metallic watercolor. So it's not a complete, it's not a complete experiment. Certain amount of confidence that I can have in it. But you got to just remind yourself of this and give yourself situations that are just to build up confidence. That's the whole purpose, is to build a sense of security around what you're doing so that it doesn't seem completely unknown. All right, there are things that about this that I regret a little bit, but I think I didn't know at the time that I was making certain kinds of errors, but partly that was because I was rushing. I'm always rushing. And I'm trying to be better about that. Yeah, so the Payne's Gray turned out not to be a real mistake. It's still pretty reflective in here, pretty metallic. You can still see it looks metallic. But Payne's Gray allowed me to go darker than the pewter alone was. So, feeling pretty good about it. I think I'm going to stop. No point in being foolish about it. Oh my gosh, it's almost, the hour's up. Wow. All right. Okay, I'm sorry I haven't been able to read through your comments. I also kind of got lost in this, I have to be honest. I'm sorry. I kind of meant to stop it earlier, but thanks for joining me today. Again, a reminder, if you would like to get a set of these metallic watercolors or this paper, you have a chance to do it. I'm not guaranteeing you that you'll get it, but certainly if you write in an email to Sketchbook School, info@sketchbookschool.com, send us your U.S. mailing address, could be a chance to do it. I'd love to see your night. I want to see your night, or whatever it is you drew today, but ideally it was a night so that we can add them with the other nights and we can have a full round table, a full army of nights. So share it on social media. Could be on Instagram, could be on Facebook. Tag it, #SBS Draw With Me, so we can find it, and we will. We'll look for it. Tuesday's generally when we do that. Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, sometime like that. So, and then also, of course, this beautiful paper, which I really enjoyed working on. We're also giving that away. So if you would like either or both or neither, write to us and tell us. The Art for All podcast, new season has begun. We did an episode this week about artificial intelligence. The only comments I've gotten so far have been disappointment and a little bit of rage. I'm not sure if they're disappointed or raging about artificial intelligence and its effect on art, but it was an interesting discussion that I had with my friend Tom Hart. That was this week's episode. It's also available here on YouTube. We bring out a new episode every Monday now that the new season has begun, and I have a different guest each week talking about stuff. So join us if you'd like. I would like to hear from you too if you enjoy that. Danny'sEssays.com. I write an essay every Friday and another one on Tuesdays just about art and creativity and life and stuff. And if you'd like to join, I think we have a lot of people now who are subscribed to it, and you can get it too for free by going to Danny'sEssays.com and signing up. And finally, of course, subscribe to this channel so that next week you will know that we're going to do it again, and we will. And we will begin with your knight in shining armor marching across the screen. So I look forward to seeing it and to seeing you again. Thanks for drawing with me. I'm Danny Gregory. This has been fun, and figure out next week something else cool to do. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.